This conference will now be recorded.
He's been instrumental in helping us get these webinars off the ground, and has done a great job informing all of us on the varieties of use for asphalt and what's really coming to light. His group, the APA, has been reorganized a bit, and I'll let him go into that on more detail and his own background in the pavement industry. On this call, he will go into depth on why parking lots matter and why asphalt is the premier choice in building or engineering a parking lot from an owner's perspective. Any questions, please place in the chat box at the bottom of the screen, and we will keep track of and bring them up at the end. If you have a need for PDH credits for this, Brandon Atchison will be sending these forms out in the next few days in an attachment. Again, please mute your mics, and I will turn it over to Dan.
Thanks, Chris, very, very much. Appreciate the opportunity to, again, work with your group down there. It's been an exciting undertaking, and so it's been great to have an affiliation with you guys. So I'm glad to welcome all of you here for Why Parking Lots Matter. We'll try to share some different aspects of the parking and commercial industry with all of you, and with my partner, Rick Biermann, who will be on in a little bit to talk about some of the different value components as well. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. As Chris had mentioned, I am the Regional Director for the National Asphalt Pavement Association. I've been in the industry for just over 40 years now, and have worked within all different facets of the industry, from the construction side all the way through the association side as well. So hope to bring you some information that can indeed be helpful to all of you. I work with a group, the Asphalt Pavement Alliance, which is comprised of these entities: the National Asphalt Paving Association, which I mentioned, the state associations such as the MAPA group that we have partnered with here this morning, and the Asphalt Institute. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of information in regards to our research that we talk about, our ability to put it in a good messaging format, and certainly the deployment side of things, which is really the effort that I'm sharing with you today as far as bringing this important subject to you. So we have a very interactive presentation this morning. So we will have numerous questions throughout the session this morning. And so I'd like you guys to grab, and folks on the phone call to please join or grab your cell phone and take part in our polls and questions that we've got going on here this morning. So on your cell phone, if you in the to box or in the sending to, type in 22333, and in the message location, please type in Dan S018. And please join our Poll Anywhere questions and Poll Everywhere questions, and we will have our first question here shortly. So I'll give you a second. Again, the information as far as how to join the polls, again, will be on the top of every one of our question slides. So again, if you either get in or get out, you'll be able to rejoin and get back involved. So again, send to 22333, Dan S018. All right, here's our first question. If you guys could, have you ever built or maintained, resurfaced, designed, and inspected a parking lot? So a simple yes or no question. If you could go ahead and please provide some feedback, that would be excellent. Well, it appears certainly that we've got obviously a good amount of folks that have certainly been involved in this important sector, and it would tend to make me feel like you have come to the right location to hopefully gather some good insight and good information. Thank you very much for responding, and looks like many of you have the knack of this. So again, we will have a couple of more of these throughout this morning's presentation. Here's the next one. This will give us a little background on who is indeed on the call and with us this morning. I think based on the registrations, we've got a good interaction, a good dispersing of folks involved. So please answer this. What best describes your company's business? What type of sector are you indeed from? So we have a good amount of consultants in joining us this morning. We've got several of our contractor partners, of course, certainly from our different associations around the country. So again, appreciate your insight and input on this question. All right, so why do parking lots matter? And certainly from our industry's perspective, we wanted to try to gain a real good insight of this. And so just to share with you a couple of statistics, this first slide here shows that around the 400 million tons are produced annually around the United States for different sectors that we obviously are involved with. And this kind of shows that disbursement of those sectors. And what you'll see is that certainly within the last few years, our commercial and residential tonnage on an annual basis has certainly increased. Certainly the economic times and those kinds of things have certainly warranted that. And so again, it's about a third of our business. And so it's an important sector that we certainly want to pay close attention to and share some of the insights on making sure durability, performance, and those components are certainly met for our customers and our clients and certainly our industry. So let me ask you this. Have you ever heard this comment? It's just a parking lot, meaning maybe the reference is, hey, it's just a parking lot, let's just get it done. Let's make it black, let's get it surfaced, hard surface, and get on down the road. And sometimes those maybe do not provide enough insight on really the importance of what that parking lot truly is. So I would like you to take away something today being it's just a parking lot. It is a parking lot. And I think it's very important that there are things that we can do and certainly things that we need to pay very close attention to make sure that it is a parking lot that we are going to walk away very proud of, and our industry can certainly discuss with many of you on how some of those things can be done. So in essence, and why this parking lot matters is certainly from the facilities point of view, the commercial entity or the apartment complex, a church, whatever it might be, it truly is a facilities welcome mat. And I think it's important for all of us to put our best foot forward in making sure that that welcome mat is something that that entity is indeed proud of and indeed there for a good duration and durability and serviceability for that customer, whether it's rolling a cart across pit or certainly coming into the front door. So here's a question for you. And again, it's kind of around this why parking lots matter. I'd like you to take a shot at a guess of one of these four numbers. How many Walmart retail units do you think are located in Missouri? Again, if you need some instructions, they're on top of the screen there. You can text these answers in by going to 22333 and sending the text Dan S018 and join our polling. Well, the correct answer is 156. And the reason why I share this with you is it certainly brings to light some of the impact in just the state of Missouri that certainly an important client and certainly an industry that we're very well aware of. There's significant retail outlets, certainly from the Walmart's perspective, and this can account for maybe 75,000 or approximately 75,000 tons on an annual basis in just the market of Missouri. So again, it is important for our sector, and it's important for this client and many clients, much like this industry. So to get us started here, we really have what we call our 7 keys. And this is a very important document that we can certainly make available to you at the end. If you want to reach out to us or as a follow-up, we can certainly provide this document to you. But it really talks about really critical elements, and it's really critical elements in any kind of infrastructure needs. But I want to certainly bring it to light on really making a successful parking lot for our customers. And the critical element is that they are keys and they're extremely important. And it is important to pay attention to those details. And I just want to take a moment this morning to just touch on just a few of them to shed some light on them. We at MAPA and the Asphalt Pavement Alliance have talked about 7 keys, and Missouri has just put together a very useful document. They have their 6 steps. very similar and indeed can be provided as well to you if indeed you have some interest in that. So the first key that I wanted to share with you is the pick your mix. One of the critical elements about picking your mix, and this is certainly discussing around the mixture design or the components that would be delivered in the truck to your facilities, is understanding a couple of very critical differences. And that one is in regards to the different loading components on a parking lot versus a highway. And so what you see there inside that blue circle is the static load, a standing load that certainly delivers different stresses and strains in that pavement than what you would maybe see on a rolling vehicle going down the highway. So understanding those nuances and differences within that asphalt mixture and component is really critical. So you as an owner, or you as a maintenance contractor, or you as a hot mix producer needs to understand of making sure that the mixtures that you're providing are certainly meeting the expectations and the installation requirements. So if it's the texture that's very important to that customer base, we have different size aggregate materials that certainly can provide a smoother related surface or a tighter knit surface for maybe that commercial account, but certainly that's rolling highway, maybe a coarser aggregate particle would certainly maybe more necessary for that type of traffic flow. So again, we can take all those into account when we're putting our mixture design together. And one of the critical elements in our mixtures is the actual glue, the binder, the liquid asphalt cement that's put in our mixture to hold the aggregates together. And so we know that when it's not stiff enough or when it's too stiff, it can provide different durability issues, whether it's the wheel dips that you see in the upper right-hand side there, or some premature cracking or fatiguing of that. We know that we need to understand where is the physical location in the north part of the United States or in the southern part of the United States, have different attributes that we have to take into account with what we call our performance grade of asphalt cement. So again, all of those things will come into play when indeed we are picking our mixture and putting our mixture to design together. And when we do not have the proper components put together, certainly some of these premature failures and durability issues can certainly be a part of it. So again, it's a very important part of understanding how do we put our mixtures together. And what we're looking for is obviously at the end of the day of being just right, having the right texture, the right binder content, the percent of asphalt cement that's in there, and certainly the correct or performance grade that is attributable to the location and surface that you will be placing down. Another important part of our mixture is the use of RAP percent use. The acronym RAP is recycled asphalt pavement, and many of the times our contractors and industry are bringing different materials back in, and one of the critical and important aspects of RAP is that it is a very sustainable utilization of these materials. 100% of the material is certainly used back in our new mixtures, and we've learned over a number of years of being able to reuse these materials very, very efficiently for cost efficiency, but certainly from a performance standard as well. And as you see, the commercial and residential location, we may be utilizing some of these percentages of 20 or 25%. And over the years, we've learned how to put the right liquid binder, the proper binder performance grade, in making sure that those mixed design performance parameters are indeed met. So again, it's a critical element in our industry, and we certainly encourage the use of our RAP materials in all sectors, and certainly want to make you aware that this is certainly a component that has certain advantages from a cost and efficiency standpoint, and certainly meeting all the requirements of the end of the day specifications that you would indeed be wanting on your surface. Another key component, and we'll leave the mixture for a second, another key component is the digging deep or the sub-base course. We understand that obviously building from the ground up, we need to make sure that things are built on good solid footings, whether it's a building or indeed in this case a parking lot. So making sure that the sub-base is uniform, compacted, and certainly can support the loads and the surfacing that we are going to be putting on top. And it is a critical part of the overall design. And certainly in a flexible or an asphalt design, understanding these components are critical in making sure that we have success. And so dealing with that sub-base course on the front end making sure that we've got the proper platform to build up from is certainly a lot less expensive to do on the front end versus maybe waiting and having to see that failure later and having some premature durability issues where we have to maybe go back in there and get back down to it. And it's certainly more expensive to go back down from the top than dealing with it from the bottom. So again, if we start seeing some of these kind of concerns and subgrade issues, that soil support value is just not there. We need to make sure that we address them. And there are certainly ways that we can get in there to review them. Do a little underground review. Maybe a boring from one of our geotechnical companies around the country can provide you some insight. A little look into the subbase can go a long way in making sure that we are doing the proper things to our subbase to improve our overall performance of that parking lot. And it certainly was some of the things that can cause issues down the road. Another piece or another key that I'd like to share with you is certainly the design, the actual pavement design. And we call it the trucking along piece of this. And this is a critical element of understanding that heavy duty and light duty type of delineation that we need to have in our parking lots. So dealing with an 18-wheeler or a delivery truck such as this semi certainly can provide and does damage, strain damage to that facility. And so in this calculation, you can see that one semi can do the same strain or cause the same amount of damage or easel loadings, if you will, as the 3,000 cars, and it could even be deemed more than that. So again, it's a critical element that we need to understand from a pavement design standpoint. Dealing with a semi and dealing with cars are really, really critical in understanding where they're going to be driving and what kind of pavement design thickness is going to be there. So in essence, here is kind of a schematic of what that pavement design thickness would indeed need to be. And as we talked about the soil subgrade, which is on the bottom there, taking into account maybe an aggregate base that would be a part of that inner layer. Here we show a 4 to 6 typically is that aggregate base with about a 4-inch asphalt surfacing placed in approximately 2 lifts, 2 layers, if you will, to get the desired thickness necessary to carry some of that light duty traffic, and indeed may need to be, and most likely will need to be thicker when we get into those heavy duty applications. How do we get to some of these design criteria? Well, we've got a tool at the Asphalt Pavement Alliance called Pave Express. And there you see the actual web link. It's an online software that is available to the general public. It does provide a lot of useful information as far as how to put an actual pavement thickness design, along with many other resources. So I certainly encourage you to go there. In addition to the different states that are joining us here this morning, many of our state associations can provide in-house or guidance documents that are located in your individual states. Many of them have parking lot design guides that can help you along with mixtures, design thickness, and things. So I certainly encourage you to go to paveexpressdesign.com and indeed use this tool when indeed putting a pavement design thickness together. And to enhance that, we've actually got a seminar coming up on May 27th that if you would go to asphaltroads.org, you could sign up and register. That'll be held May 27th at 1 o'clock Eastern. Again, we'll help you along with understanding what Pave Express has to offer. And we've got some new enhancements that we will be sharing with you on that date. So another key that I certainly want to review with you here is the Pave and Save. And this really comes down to the actual installation, and selecting a qualified contractor is really a critical component. Making sure that you've got someone that really knows what they're doing, how to lay out the parking lot, how to actually densify it, make sure that the correct thicknesses and tonnage and volumes are all indeed met. And so to assist you in that is certainly our state asphalt paving associations that we certainly partner with around the country. There are 39 of them. These are great resources for you if you are in any of these given states. By all means, utilize them, join their associations, become part of their networks. They can provide a tremendous amount of insight. And certainly, again, as you can see here with the folks at MAPA in Missouri, they provide a great service of being able to get information out to you as customers and certainly our industry as well. So a part of our Pave and Save is certainly, as you can see, these guys knowing exactly what they're doing when they're putting a parking lot down. Many of them attend conferences and technical seminars around the country or in each state as well as around the country to make sure that they are providing the best in durability. And having oversight. We know that having inspection either internally or inspection following up and making sure that we are meeting the expectations of the contracts of our customers is very, very important. So having a density check, making sure that we're getting the right compaction, not only of our subgrade, of our actual asphalt materials. So having a little bit of oversight can allow you to sleep like a baby, as I say, because you're making sure that you're getting really good performance out of that and meeting the expectations of the contract and the proposal that you have indeed signed with your local contractor. And last but not least is to certainly ask questions. As a consumer or as a consultant, making sure that you ask about certain different aspects, whether it's on the material design, the thickness design, the construction practices, all of those kinds of things certainly can make a project much indeed better and more durable as we move down the road. So recapping here, we've got our 7 keys. They are extremely important. We want to make sure that all of them are indeed important in building, and I just touched on a few of them, but by all means, we've got this resource and certainly can provide them to you and make sure that we can deliver on a lot of the durability that we certainly talk about and are very proud of in the asphalt paving industry. So here's a question for you all again, as we've got here. Which key would you consider most important? And if you can take a second to go ahead and respond to our poll here, a poll everywhere again this morning. Again, thank you for your interaction on this polling. It provides a lot of great feedback and certainly shares information and knowledge for the rest of the group. Well, the key is actually, as you can see, all of the above. It's extremely important that all of them are the most important. They are critical in getting the performance and enhancements that we are looking for from a long-term durability standpoint. So again, thank you for interacting there. One of the resources that we have within the Asphalt Pavement Alliance is what we call our handy checklist. This is another great tool for folks who are on the both sides of the equation here, meaning our customers who are purchasing and putting in a brand new parking lot, to those who are installing it, or our maintenance contractor, our laydown contractor. This is a great checklist to make sure that we understand are all the things in play and making sure that we get the best out of this facility. So you can certainly contact myself. You see my email there. The folks at MAPA and all of our state asphalt paving associations have access to this guide, and I certainly would encourage all of you to reach out and to check with your resources and get this handy checklist in your hands. One of the last things that I want to touch on is that another important part of our segment here is really the porous asphalt as we get into more municipal, dense, populated areas. We know that space is becoming very critical. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that when we indeed are being asked to provide a porous asphalt or a drainable paving or parking lot to help mitigate some of the stormwater runoff, we've got great tools and great resources for you. So for our consultants and certainly our customers that are on here this morning, we've got a couple of documents again through asphaltpavement.org. These are great resources for you to have as far as actually the actual pavement design thickness when it comes to a porous asphalt, which certainly has some nuances and variations from our dense graded materials, to certainly the whole idea of design and construction techniques that are important for this. Again, when locations are constrained by area and space for detention ponds, sometimes the utilization of a porous asphalt may be indeed what the doctor ordered and what is needed. So here we have another polling question. Which of the following companies do you believe to be the most cost conscious? And so this is just an opinion question that I'd like to share with you here this morning and ask for you to provide a little bit of thought behind. Again, looking at the different components that are here, we've got four companies here laid out as far as what and which one you may see as a cost conscious company. And again, I appreciate the feedback, and it looks like the overwhelming one here is indeed the Walmart company. Certainly, we all are very familiar with them, And many of us have maybe worked with them, and certainly we understand that they are a very value-driven component and customer, and we all utilize the Walmart brand. So why do I share this with you? Well, I want to ask you this question. What percentage of Walmarts have asphalt parking lots? So I'd ask you again, is it 100%? Is it 85 to 95%, 75 to 84%, or less than 75%? Make your estimate or make your guess on what you would guess on what percentage of the Walmarts have asphalt parking lots. And again, I appreciate your interaction here this morning. Again, we all can learn, and it makes for a good component to what we're indeed addressing here this morning. Well, I'll share with you, I did a quick overview, and again, this is probably not a scientific review, but it certainly gives a good review of what we've got. Looking at all the larger metros around the country, we find that most, again, only about 5% of them utilize a concrete pavement. So the vast majority of them, over 95% of them, are indeed asphalt pavements around the country. So Walmart does indeed see the value in asphalt. And again, I think that it's a strength in understanding why they would maybe do that, but they do see the overall value in asphalt paving for their utilization for their facilities around the country. So in essence, you as a customer, or you as a developer or a consultant, certainly have a choice in deciding which one is going to be the pavement of choice for your customer base. We have the ability and certainly have a proven record of making sure that we can provide the best in durability and what your customer indeed wants and what your consumers indeed expect when they come to your facility. And Rick will share a little bit more of the value of some of these components and value differences here very, very shortly. I want to close with a couple of things here. In-depth training. We're just touching the surface of what we really do from a training and course facilitation for you. We've got a couple of different things that I certainly offer our industry partners around the country here, from a day and a half really deep dive in this training that we can do, to a lunch and learn that we're kind of doing in this aspect here this morning, and just touching the surface of all of the different facets of materials, design, construction, maintenance, rehabilitation. So I'd encourage you to watch for these types of webinars and or face-to-face meetings that we will be having around the country, and certainly would encourage you or your folks within your different organizations, if this is information that is important to you, certainly reach out to us or watch for these. We can certainly provide you some of the updates on where these types of trainings will be held, and certainly welcome and hope to see you all attend some of these deeper discussions around the importance of asphalt paving, certainly in this important sector. And again, we also offer many different webinars through our MAPA organization. So again, asphaltpavements.org. You can get to our webinar site and see the many different things. And as I mentioned earlier, the May 27th website talking about our Pave Express tool that's extremely handy for all of you to utilize in the future. And so with that, I will now turn it over to Rick Biermann and let him introduce himself and talk again a little bit more about the Why Parking Lots Matter from down there. So Rick, take it away.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Dan. I just want to make sure, Dan, can you hear me? Am my mic working okay?
Yes, it is, Rick. Yes, it is. Go ahead.
Perfect. Outstanding. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Just wanted to, again, introduce myself. I'm Rick Biermann. I'm the Business Development Director for MAPA here in the St. Louis district. Thanks again for joining us today. Looks like our turnout is outstanding. We're really excited about what we're doing with these webinar series. And I really appreciate all of the technical information that Dan just provided us with. And I'm going to kind of take this in a little bit different area now, and I'm going to talk about kind of understanding what role the parking lot plays in the long-term investment view, and or some of the factors that factor into the ROI, and kind of how that works and what owners are most concerned about. So with that, I will go ahead and jump in here. So We're looking at the first one here. We're talking about, again, the question that we posed when we started this webinar was, why does a parking lot matter? Why does anybody care, when an owner is building a multi-million-dollar facility, does the parking lot really even factor into any of their decisions, or should it? And we'd like to kind of propose that, of course, it'll make up about 10% of the initial structural cost. So 10% is obviously not something that should be an afterthought, or, especially be poorly designed. So, we encourage folks to make sure they understand what role that plays. And then also, when you consider the fact that going forward, the ownership of that building, the three major factors that folks see when they own property, the roof, the HVAC system, and the parking lot typically make up the most cost, or cost them the most as they own things going forward. How much the lot factors into that greatly depends upon how it is constructed and how it is maintained. So, again, we really encourage folks to make sure they pay attention to what they're doing, when they design and build it. So now let's take a look at some of the things that the owners care about when they're making their decision. Of course, this probably isn't rocket science to anybody here. The cost. Obviously, everybody says, hey, how much is this going to cost me? Speed is vitally important. They want to know, how quick is this going to get done? I want to get my doors open as soon as possible. I want to start making money on my investment. The reliability. What am I getting for my money? Aesthetics, I think this is something Dan touched on a little bit. It's really important. It's because it's what the customer sees. And finally, the sustainability of it. We are all becoming increasingly concerned about how our impact on the environment, and construction world is no different. And a lot of folks are utilizing asphalt and the rest of the construction to obtain LEED credits and other green incentives. So now I guess it's time. Let's go ahead and get our phones back out. We're going to follow in Dan's footsteps here with doing the poll. For those of you who have not yet participated, the instructions on how to participate are right here on the top. You can get your phones out. You can text in. But which of the poll we're taking here is which of the following statement do you perceive to be the most accurate? Looks like we're getting some good participation, and we've got a good balance of question, or I guess of responses here. But looks like for the most part we're coming up with somewhere between unsure and asphalt has the lowest life cycle cost. So let's go ahead and jump in here and take a look at some of the costs that are involved. Again, this is probably not news to a lot of the folks on the call, but the original construction cost of asphalt is traditionally less than alternative pavements like concrete or other ones. But just to kind of put some numbers behind this, we're seeing it now at at least 15% less in the initial cost. This example that we're kind of looking at here on our screen, just so that you guys understand, we kind of looked at two different parking lots, both of them being about 1,000 square yards. The asphalt design we looked at was 4 inches of asphalt over 8 inches of rock, and 6 inches of concrete over 2 inches of rock. So just kind of gives a nice side-by-side comparison. And with the next slide, we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the maintenance cost and things that factor in. Going back to the kind of the poll question, and it's kind of a common misunderstood in the pavement design world that Portland cement or concrete offers a completely maintenance-free solution. And the research over the past 10, 15 years is showing that this is just not to be the case. In fact, one of the bigger issues that a lot of our owners are starting to see is that concrete's only viable repair option is to completely tear out and replace it. So that's showing here to be far more costly to own and maintain. A couple of these pictures that you're looking at here are some lots that we've worked with the owners in replacing, obviously with the asphalt structure after the pavement did not live up to the projected life cycle that justified the original expense. So there's just some examples of kind of what we're looking at here. With the next slide, we'll go ahead and take a look at what that total cost of ownership year over year looks like. And as you'll see with that graph, it starts to become a very large gap. And kind of going back to what we talked about with, when you're looking at a total ownership of a facility or a building, as a whole, when you factor in, that the parking lot is one of the top three cost consumers, I guess, when you look at your options here, if one of them is considerably more, that can have a dramatic impact on the cost of owning that structure in the years to come. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide, which actually goes into our next topic, which is the speed of construction. Whether you're looking at new construction or you're looking at repairs, in this world, in construction world, time is money. Time, on the GC is always looking for ways to either stay on schedule, or often they're incentivized to finish project early. Like I said before, we want to get those doors open as soon as possible. And same thing, in the repair world, construction time, that's downtime, that's limited access customers have to the building, and that has a direct impact on the revenue that building produces. So, when you see here and you look at this slide, you see that asphalt can be constructed, up to 70% faster than other pavements. That's kind of a big deal. Our next slide here is an example of exactly kind of what that speed can mean, tying into the overall theme here that Dan kind of created with using Walmart as our example. This is a Walmart here in Missouri, actually I think located in Fulton, and essentially they were able to overnight come in and completely redo the parking lot with very little impact on the availability of that store. So it's the fact that asphalt can also be worked on and done overnight is a big factor, and being able to keep that facility generating revenue. Let's talk about the performance of asphalt as we look at the next slide here. Performance of asphalt, and asphalt was first used in the United States somewhere in the mid 1800s. And today, this slide shows us that 93% of the pavement surfaces in America are asphalt. If you think about it, it's been around since the 1800s. That's a significant amount of time to show that the material has performed for generations of lifetime. And 93%, that's not done by mistake. There's a lot of research that goes into which pavement types are going to offer the best bang for the buck, and it's significant that asphalt is utilized as much as it is. So let's shift gears a little bit now and talk about kind of how asphalt looks. It's really important, the image that a parking lot portrays. It's often the first and the last thing that a customer sees. I would often suggest to an owner sometimes that instead of looking at your maintenance cost of a parking lot as a bottom line expense, you should also look at it as part of your marketing budget, because again, it is such an image thing, and we are all concerned about the image that we portray. So with that, I think it's time for another question. So let's go ahead and then get our phones back out and let you guys take a look at, you got a couple samples here. Sorry, the pictures are a little small, but I think you can kind of get the point here of which parking lot do you think looks better? And I appreciate the responses are growing there, and it looks like 100%. Oh no, somebody decided that they wanted to just make, you know, add a little bit to the blue column on the B there. So you got a couple more responses flowing in here. So okay, thank you guys. Appreciate the participation there, and we'll look here. This is, you know, a tie back in again to Dan's slide here from earlier about, you know, which one do you think looks better? And it's interesting that 8 out of 10 people prefer the look of asphalt pavements. And, you know, I think our next slide here will kind of help drive that fact home for a minute. You know, if you look at this and you think about it, car manufacturers, they spend millions of dollars a year researching on ways to sell more cars, to be appealing, to show people, to make them want to go buy their cars, right? And if I challenge you to think about how many ads or car commercials have you seen where the car is driving on anything other than asphalt? And you know, this is not a scientific poll, but I've never been able to find one. So I can tell you that it's pretty much all of them. It's just a matter of people just prefer the look of asphalt. So let's go ahead and do another question here. Go ahead and get your phones out. Let's we're going to move on to kind of the next section here, and we're going to talk about sustainability. And we like pictures, so it's kind of nice to have these side by side. You've got the black asphalt on top and the nice white concrete on the bottom. So taking a look here, which one do you guys perceive to be more sustainable? We're getting our results here. Looks like we're about 75% on the asphalt side, so that's good. Looks like we've got a pretty educated group here with us. I think you guys don't really need me that much, I guess. But let's talk about some of the factors that lead to the sustainability that you 70% actually were correct. Asphalt is 100% recyclable. That's probably not news to very many folks on the call here. As Dan mentioned earlier, you know, recycled asphalt pavement, or RAP, is included in almost all asphalt projects now. Helps greatly reduce the use of virgin oils and aggregates. What may be interesting to some of you on the call that you may not have heard before is that asphalt is actually the world's #1 recycled product. So it is the most recycled product in the world. So that's goes very far in speaking to the sustainability of the product. We're not putting it in landfills; it's getting reused, and we're able to save oil and rock by doing that. One of the things that was interesting to me that I had never realized, and I actually jotted a note down here on this slide tying back into Dan's. I didn't realize how much the commercial market utilized RAP. So that's vital, guys. That's great for our industry, for our market. That the commercial segment is doing their part to use a lot of that RAP that's available. So as we look at our next slide here, we'll kind of see how asphalt compares to some of the other pavement choices from other aspects of sustainability. This Bloomberg article was really interesting. It came out about a year ago that was talking about the CO2 production globally, and it was alarming to see that Portland cement accounts for almost 7% of the total global CO2 production. And then if you look at that little chart there, interesting to see that cement actually produces more CO2 than all of the trucks on the road. So that's quite an impact on the greenhouse gases out there. And if you look at the two products side by side, like we did in the comparison question a little bit ago, You know, you see the white Portland cement and the black asphalt, and you know, many would probably assume that the black asphalt would be harder on the environment or less eco-friendly, and that just is not the case. And as you see here, asphalt produces about 30% less CO2 than the comparable cement. So with that, let's take a look at another aspect here of sustainability. And most of us have probably heard something about the urban heat island effect. You know, and again, a safe assumption probably would have been that asphalt plays a role in that heat island, because of course it's black, and it attracts, you know, black attracts heat and it absorbs heat, and it seems to be a hotter pavement. But when you actually get into the science of how the urban heat island effect works and what effect that has on the environment and the surrounding environment around that pavement, it's actually interesting to understand that asphalt actually helps reduce the energy consumption of the buildings around it, because it's actually absorbing that heat. That heat is going into the pavement, not being reflected, and reflective pavements are causing that heat to be reflected into the surrounding air, thus, you know, causing the buildings to have to spend more energy to keep them cooler. So you can see the surrounding are affected by 5 to 10 degrees, and increases that cooling load by up to 11%. So all in all, it's you know, it's a very sustainable product. So as we start to conclude this message here, I hope that we've helped you kind of understand that you know, it's not just a parking lot. And when you're thinking about, you know, how you relay that message, you never get that second chance to make that first impression. And when you think about the future ownership costs, it's worth the time and investment to make sure that the lot is designed to last and gives off the image that you want your customers to feel. So with that, our last slide, I will talk about, you know, not only does the parking lot matter, but the materials in which you use to construct that lot, they matter as well. So you know, we often have, it's a simple question like, you know, what should I use in my lot, or why should I use asphalt in my parking lot? And I put these in here, and they're designed to be kind of the quick answer. And you'll see the first one there. I say it's cheaper. And I know that's, you know, cheaper is a word that I don't like to use a lot, because, you know, it can have a negative connotation to it. But for the fact of being able to rattle off quick answers, it's cheaper, it's faster, it looks better, it's greener, and asphalt just flat out performs any other pavement choice. So with that, guys, I will turn this over, open it up to questions. I would like to remind everybody, Dan mentioned it a couple of times, but all of the handouts from today, the resources that I've mentioned, that Dan mentioned, they are all available. If you guys reach out to myself, to Dan, or to your local state asphalt pavement association, we've got. Dan showed that slide earlier. Almost every state has an association, so reach out directly to them or us, where we are definitely here to help. We also encourage all of our consultants on the phone here to reach out to ourselves or to any of our MAPA members for any questions that you may have, or to get your next lots paved in good quality asphalt. Our members are always here to help. So with that, Brandon, do we have any questions in the comment section?
Yeah, I've got one here, Rick. In dealing with compaction in parking lots, can you explain the differences between nuclear and non-nuclear density gauges, and which is more appropriate to use to test compaction?
Thanks for the question. I would say that the vast majority of the people out today and our contractors have the non-nuclear density gauges to certainly help facilitate that. Certainly others will still indeed, and certainly the lower lifts will maybe even cut a core yet. But the nuclear gauge is certainly the predominant tool. The non-nuclear gauge utilization is a great tool for making sure that density is indeed achieved.
Dan, this is Dale Williams at MAPA. Might go on to further explain probably why you're seeing, there really isn't a big difference between nuclear and non-nuclear. It just happens to be with a nuclear gauge, you have to comply with the Nuclear Regulatory Committee, which is expensive, a lot of paperwork, and just the overall how you handle the gauge. It has to be under 2 locks, how you transport it. So I think you're seeing a lot of companies, as these non-nuclear gauges have come online, just the cost and the I use the word responsibility of ownership are much different.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dale. Great point.
A follow-up to that question was any idea on cost of non-nuclear units?
That I actually do not have a handle on that. I don't know if Dale or Chris would maybe have an idea on what those cost differences might be, but I don't have that in front of me here.
I can chime in. I'm not sure of the cost of a true nuclear gauge. I believe a non-nuke is somewhere in the, I want to say $5,000 to $7,000 range. And then you've got to have it tested every year or every 2 years. We send ours off, but it's not something cheap, and it's something that you want to maintain very well, keep clean, and make sure it's in the right person's care.
That's all I have in the chat box there.
Do we have anybody, any other questions that anybody would like to bring up to the group?
A couple more just popped up there.
Yeah, see, we've got we've got a question about some of the resources. Somebody specifically mentioned the MAPA 6 steps. I have those available. They are actually available to our MAPA members inside of the website, which was just our new website was just launched yesterday. So we'll be getting information out about how to be accessing those things online. For those of you that are asking about the specific resources, feel free to reach out to myself, and I will make sure that I point you in the right direction or get you copies of those.
Say, Dan, can you hop in? Someone asked a question on basically fiber asphalt versus petro, the old petromat, inner layers. Can you discuss that for a minute?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, that is one of the things that we're certainly seeing an advancement of kind of around the country. The utilization of certainly some of the fiber additives, which there are many additives that are certainly available within our industry to certainly improve the overall performance. Fibers being one of them, polymers being some. We are seeing some ground tire rubbers being reutilized and utilized in our industry. But all of those come with different attributes that certainly provide long-term durability, either strength issues, higher strain resistance, better cold temperature property resistance, better fatigue resistance. So again, yes, all of those indeed are used in commercial applications as well as our highway infrastructure. So again, I think those are all kind of some of those questions, working with our state associations and our contractors, making sure that they indeed put the best foot forward of those materials that are available. Thanks, Chris, for the question.
And that's a great segue there also to our next webinar that Chris mentioned in the beginning. We've actually, next week, next Wednesday, we're going to be hosting, Buzz is going to be talking about a lot of those different innovations and newer technologies that we're seeing, and kind of, their effect and how their intended application. So that's for whoever asked that question, that'll be gotten into a little bit deeper in our next webinar.
Sounds good. If there's no other questions, Dale.
Well, we do have one other one. It says, are there any studies on the effectiveness of Petromat parking lot overlays? See so many deteriorating no differently than no interlayer. I am not aware of anything, Dan, or
I don't know of any direct information that would maybe address that question, Dale. But certainly fabrics have been used intermittently in different applications, maybe along some joints or those kinds of things, to maybe help facilitate some deterioration or deterrence, I should say, of some of that reflective cracking that may happen. Some of them have been successful. Some of them may have been come up a little bit short. I know one of the things that certainly our industry looks at is being able to recycle some of those pavements, and that's one of those questions that always comes up on the recyclability of some of those fabrics. But by all means, I guess it's certainly another tool in the toolbox that can indeed be looked at and reviewed and investigated for your certain application. Chris,
Okay.
I guess I'll hand it back.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dan, and thank you for answering the questions. If anyone else has any, it looks like there's still 50 people on here. Please put them in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. So, well, thank you everyone for your comments and questions. And again, please join us here in 2 weeks. If you haven't heard Buzz speak, he gives maybe just as good of a presentation as Dan. So maybe.
You're too kind, Chris. Thank you.
No, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate everybody.
Thank you.